High school president Suzune Inukami and vice president Kazuki Rusin are the most popular students at their school, always seen together. Ken Usato, on the other hand, considers himself forgettable and longs for a fantastical life. One rainy day, their lives take an unexpected turn when a mysterious magic circle transports them to another world. In the kingdom of Linger, they are summoned as heroes to combat an impending demon threat. Suzune and Kazuki quickly discover their magical affinities, but Ken's reveal shocks everyone. He possesses rare healing magic. Before he can process this, Ken is whisked away by Rose, the fearsome captain of the rescue team, who vows to train him rigorously. As Suzune and Kazuki grapple with their new roles, Ken faces intense training, preparing for a destiny that will test his courage and resilience. Follow us through this as we properly dive into the full story. Don't hesitate to leave in the comment section what anime you want us to recap for your entertainment. The story begins with the high school president, Suzune Inukami, and the vice president, Kazuki Ryusen, walking into their classroom. Apparently, they are the most popular in the school for obvious reasons, and the two are always together. After school that day, Suzune and Kazuki plan to sort some documents before heading home. Elsewhere at the school is another student, Ken Usato. He is the complete opposite of Suzune and Kazuki. He is the least popular, and he sees himself as the most forgettable person. He is about to start heading home after he says goodbye to his classmates when he spots a bird's nest on the floor, with the hatchlings screaming for help. He picks up the nest, and with the help of a ladder, he is able to place the nest back in a safe place. In reality, Ken has always hoped for a fantastical life, but it is what it is. It has started raining, and he goes to the umbrella stand to find out that his umbrella is gone. However, there is still an umbrella at the stand, but he believes that he will only be causing the owner problems if he takes the umbrella. He decides to sit down and wait for the rain to subside till he can go home. While sitting down, he wishes that he had magic to help him get home. Soon afterward, Ken realizes that he has been sitting for hours, and the rain is not even showing signs of stopping. He scoffs out in surprise, and at that same moment, Suzune shows up. Suzune easily figures out that Ken doesn't have an umbrella, and this is the reason he is stuck in the school. Ken is shy to answer Suzune clearly, and he just says he will now be heading home. Suzune stops him and says it would be bad of her to send him just like that. Kazuki also shows up and volunteers to offer Ken his spare umbrella so he can use that to head out in the rain. Ken is surprised to hear this because he never thought of Kazuki as a nice guy. They haven't spoken to each other even with the fact that they are in the same class. Ken humbly accepts the umbrella, and he thanks the two for their help. Suzune then suggests that they all walk home together, and this shocks Ken even more. It feels like he is in a freaking dreamland. He wonders how the entire school will feel when they find out that he walked home with the two most popular guys in school. He is so lost in thought that he has no idea that he is speaking out loudly. Suzune and Kazuki are surprised to hear this, but Ken quickly brushes the matter aside. After this, they start heading home, and Ken uses the opportunity to ask the two if they are dating. The two turn back to ask him why he asked them such a question, and he replies that people are always talking about this, and this is the reason he asked. The two replied that they appreciated the fact that he asked them, rather than talking behind their backs. Suzune then tells Ken that she and Kazuki are not dating. They just tend to spend a lot of time together, because they are both on the student council. They continue their walk home, and Suzune uses the opportunity to ask Ken what his plans after school are. Ken doesn't have a plan yet, and the same goes for Suzune. She even feels like she is not where she is supposed to be. Suzune and Kazuki suddenly stop when they hear a bell sound. The two are surprised that Ken is not hearing the sound like they are. The bell starts getting louder, but the two have no idea where the ringing sound is coming from. Suddenly, a bright yellow magic circle opens beneath their feet. They start wondering what the circle is for, but Ken says the circle is probably a gate to another world. Suzune appears to be delighted when she hears this, and she wonders if there will be heroes and demons in the world where they are going. The force of the circle gets stronger, and they get sucked into the magical portal. Upon waking up, they find themselves in a throne room. There is a king, a priestess, and guards staring down at them. Kazuki and Ken appear bothered by this, unlike Suzune, who is glad that they have found themselves in another world. Kazuki speaks out loudly and demands to know what they have done to them and their purpose of being there. One of the guards wants to shut him up for disrespecting the king, but the king stops him. The king then decides to introduce himself and also talk to the trio in a calm manner. The man's name is Lloyd Vulgast Linger, and he is the king of Linger. He tells them that they have been summoned to the Linger kingdom to serve as heroes. Suzune hears this and is gripped with excitement because this is exactly what she wants. Lloyd tells them that they were attacked by the Demon King and his armies 2 years ago. The nation managed to repel the enemies, but the demon army has been growing even stronger since then. There is no telling when the demons will attack, and this is the reason they have summoned the heroes as a precaution. Kazuki stands up in anger and scolds the king for bringing them into the fantasy world without their consent. They have a family back at home, and he is very sure that their families will be worried about them. He wants the king to send them back, but the king says the summoning only works one way. They can only be summoned but not returned. What the hell, man? Kazuki hears this and he gets more mad. He tries taking a step closer to the king, but he is stopped by the guards. The king then stands up from his throne, walks toward the trio, and he bows to them. He begs them for the misunderstanding, and he assures them that he will find a way to send them back once they have been able to defeat the Demon King and his army. The priestess and the guards in the room also bow to the trio in solidarity with their king. Upon hearing this, Suzune accepts the offer to be heroes, but wonders why they are called heroes when they know nothing about them. The king then tells the priestess, Welsi, to explain things to them. Welsi explains that the summoning circle is designed to select the most capable individuals. She asks them if they heard bells ringing before being summoned, and they say yes. However, it dawns on them that Ken didn't hear the bells before they were summoned. Ken is thrown aback when he hears this, and he wonders if he was just dragged into their freaking mess because he was with them. Welsi then says it is time for them to measure their magical abilities and the type of magic that they have. She takes them to a room that contains a crystal ball, capable of what they want to do. Suzune is the first to step closer to the ball because she is the most excited about everything going on, while the other two are still trying to figure out their new life. Suzune touches the ball, and it turns yellow. Welsi explains that her affinity for magic is very strong, and the type of magic she possesses is thunder magic. Suzune gets even more excited when she sees this. After this, Kazuki steps forward to touch the ball, and it turns white when he does so. Welty says the type of magic that he possesses is light magic, and this can be used to dispel evil. The type of magic is quite rare, she says. After this, Ken steps up to touch the ball and ascertain the type of magic he has. He wonders if he will have any magical powers, and if he does, he wants to use them to help Kazuki and Suzune. He touches it and it turns green. The moment this happens, Welsi is left in total shock. Welsi immediately grabs Ken, drags him out of the room, and she tells the two to wait in the room. She drags Ken to the throne room, where she tells the king that the ball turned green when Ken touched the ball. The king hears this, and he also screams out in surprise. Welsi is about to reveal the type of magic that Ken has when the king tells her not to. He speaks about getting Ken away from the palace urgently. Ken starts to wonder why they want to take him someplace else. He assumes that they are acting this way because he is dangerous. He asks them if there is anyone else who has the same magic as him, and the king says yes. He says there is someone who possesses the same magic as him, and he is about to emphasize more on this when a woman opens the door wide. Everyone in the throne room is gripped with fear when they see her. The lady's name is Rose, and the king assumes that she was on break for the day. Rose says she has come to ask how well the summoning ritual went. The king quickly says the heroes are in the throne room and the summoning was a success. Rose introduces herself to Ken as the captain of the kingdom's rescue team. Mere looking at Rose sends chills down Ken's spine, and he sees Rose as someone who terminates people rather than saving them. After the introduction, Rose says goodbye to the king, and she starts heading out. The king heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this, and he told Ken that he would have a room prepared for him later in the day. Ken is curious about the nature of his magic, and he asks the king what it means for the ball to turn green. Rose is about to step out when she hears this, but she immediately stops and turns back. The king is gripped with fear as Rose walks toward Ken. She tells the king that she will be borrowing the boy, but the king tells Welsi to get Ken away from Rose. Welsi follows the king and uses her magic to put a bubble around Ken. She throws him out of the room and out of the palace, but Rose runs after him with her super speed. Ken is floating in the sky, but Rose jumps after him and he knocks off the bubble around his body with powerful punches. The king and his people run out of the palace to see this, but it is too late, because Rose has already grabbed the clueless piece of shit. She tells the king that she will be taking over the boy's training, and she assures him that she will turn Ken into a full-fledged healing magic user. This then reveals that the green color is Ken's affinity for healing magic. The king tries to tell Rose that Ken was only dragged into this, but she is not ready to hear that. She carries Ken along as she walks away from the castle. Later on, Kazuki and Suzune learn about Ken's kidnapping. They believe that he is in danger, but Welsi assures them that he is not going to be killed or anything similar to that. Welsi explains that Ken has been taken to the rescue team that is just beyond the castle. She says healing magic users are very rare, and this is the reason Rose wants to train him because she herself is a healing magic user. Suzune doesn't see a problem in this, but Welsi says Rose's methods are the problem. They are somewhat unorthodox, and the subordinates she produces are scary. Meanwhile, Rose and Ken have arrived at the rescue team house. Rose calls out her subordinates and she tells them to welcome Ken. Ken is gripped with fear when he sees the subordinates that she is talking about. They look absolutely scary and they appear to be people who have the screws loose upstairs. The boys start to introduce themselves to Ken. The boys introduce themselves as follows. There is Ken, Mill, Alec, Gomel, and Gerd. Rose informs the boys to treat Ken right and not scare him. She tells Ken that the boys he is looking at are not healing magic users. She is just training them as her subordinates. There are other healing magic users, but they are working someplace else. Rose tells Ken of her plans to instill tough training into him. She shocks him when she tells him that training starts the next day. She retires to her room after saying this, but before going, Ken is informed that he will be sharing the same room with Tong. That night, Ken lies on the bed and hopes that everything goes fine. Rose is also in her chambers and cannot wait to see how things turn out with the new healing magic user who has come from another world. The following day, Ken wakes up, hoping that he has been dreaming. Unfortunately, he realizes that he is still in the fantasy world, and it is as real as it gets. He is still in the room when Tong comes to tell him that he has visitors. He gets outside to find Kazuki and Suzune outside. The two are dressed in the White Hero's uniforms. Kazuki reveals his relief that Ken is okay because they were worried when they heard that he was kidnapped. Ken thanks them for the concern and says he is alive and well, but he remembers that he is supposed to start training that day. This is a real mood crasher for him when he remembers how scary Rose looks. Kazuki says he has made up his mind to do his best in the fantasy world too. Suzune and Kazuki urge Ken to do his best too. The two will also be starting their training that same day. After they are done checking on him, they bid him farewell and head back to the castle. As they leave, Ken thinks to himself about the need to get stronger so he can help them out in their duties. Just then, Rose opens the door, and Ken shakes his fear when he sees her. She tells Ken that he is not in prison and he is free to receive visitors. However, he can only do that when he is not training. She throws a journal at him and tells him to write his daily activities and training routines inside the journal. Everything he feels should also be written in the journal, she says. She then tells him to get ready because his training will start immediately after they have heard breakfast. After breakfast, Rose and Ken get down to training. The first training routine is Rose telling Ken to hold his hand over his chest. She asks him what he feels after some minutes of holding his hand to his chest. He says he feels some sort of warmth coming from his chest, and Rose informs him that what he is feeling is called mana. Rose lets him know that his next task would be trying to draw the mana out of his body. However, he should just focus on sensing the mana for now. She gives him a book to read where he can learn basic information about the world and other things. Ken is surprised by this and says he cannot read the world's language just yet. Rose urges him not to worry about that and should just open the book. He does this, and upon opening, he realizes that he can actually read the book. Rose lets him know that heroes summoned always have translation magic cast on them. She shows him the Linger nation on the map, and also shows him the demon territory. Ken can see that the demon territory is closer to Linger than the other nations. Rose explains that this closeness is the reason the demons attack Linger before any other nations. They are practically each other's neighbors. Rose tells him to go through the book to learn about the nations, races, and other things. After saying this, she leaves. Ken is relieved that his training is as hard as he thought it would be. The following day, Rose ups Ken's training routine by telling him to start running around the field. Ken follows her order and starts running, but Rose doesn't let him have a breather, even when his legs are numb. The training continues like this on the third day, and when Ken's muscle gets sore, forcing him to fall to the ground, Rose heals him up and tells him to continue running. Ken has no choice but to start running again to avoid getting killed by Rose. Ken plans to insult Rose in his journal. That is the only place he can do that, so he plans to do it to the best of his power. On the fourth day of training, Ken is integrated into the team, and he starts training with them, even though he is nowhere near their level. The rest of the team always runs past him, like he is not moving at all. Rose is always standing there, dissing Ken, but Ken doesn't have the mind to talk back to her. The only thing he can do is to continue dissing her inside his dairy. Ken continues the usual daily training, and on the sixth day, he falls to the ground while he is running. This is the moment he notices a green light shining from his hand. He figures out that the light is the light of healing magic, but he has no plans to use the light just yet. From the seventh day, Rose becomes harsher than she was before. She starts kicking Ken around the training ground, forcing Ken to assume that the lady has seen everything he said about her in his diary. This same treatment continues till the ninth day. Rose kicks Ken and he hits his head on a stone. This is when he subconsciously uses the light of the healing magic to heal himself. It dawns on him that he can actually heal himself at intervals and considers the healing magic a must-have. This new discovery makes him more serious with his training than he was before. By the 10th day, he is able to manifest the healing magic whenever he wants, and he can now run for hours without getting tired. Whenever he wants to feel tired, he just heals himself and continues running again. He continues to train harder because of his desire to help Kazuki and Suzune when they need him. On the 11th day of training, Rose realizes that Ken is getting used to running, and she changes his training schedule. He is now required to do push-ups. He can go a long time doing this because he just heals himself back whenever his hands feel sore or numb. While he is training, Rose tells him the importance of training hard. She says Ken needs to be able to run very fast when he is in the middle of the battle. He should be able to run faster than the enemies so he can save his comrades when the time comes. The faster he can run, the faster and more efficiently he can save his comrades. By the 12th day, Ken is already combining running with push-ups, and he is able to do this pretty easily. His body now feels lighter, and he doesn't seem to feel anything when engaging in any of these training sessions. However, Rose adds weights to Ken's body the following day to make things hard for him. The weights on his body feel really heavy, but he has no choice but to keep running around with it. On the 14th day, his lunch goes missing, and finds out that Tong is the culprit. He gets angry and chases after him. He forgets that he is putting on the weights, and he doesn't feel them as he chases after Tong. With this, he is able to get used to the weights too. On day 21, Kazuki, Suzune, the Princess Celia, and the head of the Knights, Siglis, come to the rescue team base to check on Ken. The four are surprised when they get there to find him lifting a large brick placed on his back by Rose. To make things worse, Rose is also sitting on the block. Ken ends up talking back to Rose, and this makes her angry. She picks up one more brick and adds it to the one that he is already lifting. This feels very heavy for Ken at first, but he is able to heal his body and immediately get used to the enormous weight of the bricks. Rose is impressed by this, and she says Ken is already becoming her type of man. She plans to take him out there sooner than expected if he manages to continue the way he is. Suzune, who is standing in the distance, is already falling in love with Ken's muscles. Siglis approaches Rose and he holds her by the collar. He scolds her and says she is overworking Ken. He claims that Rose is just destroying the bright future that Ken has. Rose then tells him that she is training Ken this hard because she wants Ken to be her right-hand man, and he should be able to handle such tough problems if he wants to qualify as his right-hand man. Rose is impressed that Ken has been training hard without giving up, coupled with the fact that he has been able to survive her training all this while. Rose then tells Ken to take a break away from training so he can catch up with his friends. Siglis then tells Kazuki and Suzune to take Celia away while he discusses with Rose. Ken and his friends walk away and they sit under a tree to discuss. Upon getting there, he finds out that the girl with them is the princess, and her name is Celia. He immediately gets on his knees and bows to the girl, but Celia tells him that there is no need to be so formal. Suzune smiles when she sees this, and says Kazuki acted just like him the first time he saw Celia. Celia then unveils the pie that she brought for them, and while they eat, Kazuki uses the time to tell Ken about their own experiences at the castle. He says Siglis has been teaching them how to use the sword, and Welsi has been in charge of the magic training. The good thing about this is that Siglis and Welsi care about their well-being. They are allowed to rest anytime they feel tired to avoid fatigue. On the other hand, Rose is very brutal, and she doesn't mind stressing Ken. Ken is about to take one more portion of the food when Suzune uses that to take a good peek at Ken's abs. She is already in love with Ken's muscles and abs. She wants to touch them so badly and finds it hard to control herself from doing so. Suzune comes back to her senses when Kazuki talks about something else. Ken then says he has already adapted to life in the fantasy world. He wanted to run away when he first got here, but he is now used to things. The training sessions have also been fun, and he believes that life is not that bad in the fantasy world. Suzune is impressed with him and says he has already found his place in the fantasy world. Ken doesn't see things the way the two see it. He says he is just stubborn enough not to give up. He knows that Kazuki and Suzune will fight as heroes one day, and he wants to be there to support them no matter what. Suzune blushes really hard and says she cannot wait for the day when Ken will show up to save her. Just then, Tong shows up to inform Ken that his lunch is ready. This immediately triggers Ken because the memory of Tong eating his lunch still remains fresh in his head. He stands up, looking all dangerous, and Tong is shocked to see that Ken hasn't forgotten about what happened. Ken charges toward Tong, and Tong also decides to wait for him. Rose is not around, so he wants to use that to deal with Ken. However, it seems Ken is now tougher than he looks, as he is able to stand toe-to-toe with Tong. While they are in the middle of this battle, Kazuki realizes that Ken has accepted life in the fantasy world, and this is now his daily life routine. He wants to get stronger too, and he stands up to leave so he can go train. Suzune agrees with him and Celia joins them so that they can return to the castle together. That night, Ken reminisces about everything that Suzune said and realizes that she is actually telling the truth. His body has changed a lot, but he has not been too busy to notice this. Ken is impressed with the body he now has, but hopes that he has the mental strength to match the body he has spent so much time building. The following day, Rose throws a bag at Ken and informs him that they are going out. Tong and the others say it is finally time for Ken to have a taste of the outside world. Ken picks up the bag and follows Rose. They get to the city gate, and Rose doesn't spend much time convincing the guard at the gate that she has business outside the city. It seems Rose's appearance alone is enough to strike fear into people. Ken continues following her until they get to a forest known as the Darkness of Linger, which is filled with monsters. She tells him to enter into the forest and not come back until he hunts down a grand grizzly. Ken is shocked to hear this and decides to protest against this decision. Apparently, grizzlies have to live nothing less than 100 years before they can become grand grizzlies. This simply means that the grand grizzlies are on top of the food chain and are also very strong. Ken tries to remind Rose that all he has been doing is running and that he has not undergone any fighting training. All of these seem like noise and excuses to Rose because her mind is already made up. Rose realizes that Ken is wasting her time and she grabs him. Rose then throws Ken into the forest to face his new test in the forest and see if he will come out alive. As Ken descends toward the ground, he hopes he will not die from such a long fall. However, he realizes that he actually has the power to keep himself alive. He activates his healing magic and he falls through the bushes and trees. His injuries keep getting healed up by his magic. By doing this, he successfully makes it to the ground without a single injury on his body. He is now in the forest, and there is no other choice but to do whatever Rose ordered him to do. He starts imagining the ways he can take down the Grand Grizzly. He is sweet-talking this when a Grand Grizzly suddenly shows up behind him. This is unexpected, and Ken takes to his heels before he becomes bear dinner. The bear stays on his heels as he continues running for his life. All the training he has been doing obviously paid off as he is able to put some distance between himself and the bear. He starts thinking of stopping and having a face down with the bear. He is about to implement this thought when two more blue bears appear out of nowhere and join the Grand Grizzly. Without thinking too much about it, Ken knows that he is definitely no match for the trio, and he starts running away again. He sees an opening in front of him and hears sounds coming from there. He recognizes this as water, and he picks up the pace. He breaks through the opening and finds himself facing a waterfall. Without thinking twice, he leaps off the ground and jumps into the water. The bears cannot follow him into the water, and they stay on the edge of the cliff to make sure that there is no sign of Ken before turning back to leave. Ken follows the current of the water and finally emerges when it is safe. He takes off his clothes, dries them, and he takes shelter on the branch of a tree. He checks through the backpack that Rose gave him to find out that the only weapon in the pack is the one and only knife that Rose put in there. There are foodstuffs there, but there is nothing that Ken can start a fire with. He thinks about his mission to defeat the Grand Bear, and it seems somewhat impossible to him. However, he decides to count his survival on the first day as a win. He records the first day by marking a tree with his knife. After he has done this, he goes to sleep. The following day, he wakes up, gets dressed, picks up his knife, and heads out. He knows that the best thing he can do is to learn about his enemy. As he walks away from his base, he marks the tree along the way to keep track of where he is coming from. He soon finds a tree with tree scratches on it, and he immediately assumes that the scratches are made by the bears, which means that they are nearby. He is thinking about this when he hears a rustling in the bush behind him. He immediately arms himself and turns around to check out the danger. Just then, a rabbit pops out of the bush, looking all innocent. The rabbit crawls toward Ken, and Ken asks him if he is hurt, to which the rabbit answers yes. Ken is surprised to find out that the rabbit can actually hear him. He checks out the rabbit, and he finds a cut on the rabbit's leg. Out of the goodness of his heart, Ken heals the rabbit so it can get going. After healing the rabbit, Ken continues what he was doing, only for him to find out that the rabbit is actually following him. He tries telling the rabbit to stay away because he is tracking some scary monsters which can actually be dangerous for him. However, the rabbit refuses and continues to follow him. At some point, it dawns on Ken that the rabbit might know where the Grand Grizzly is located, and he asks him if he does. The rabbit confirms this, and starts to lead Ken in the right direction. The rabbit takes Ken to the Grand Grizzly's den, where he finds out that the two blue bears are actually the Grand Grizzly's family. He monitors the bears for some moment and decides to go for a water break. He sees a lake in which the water looks funny, but he has no choice but to drink it. After this, he continues to monitor the bears. Later on, Ken starts to writhe in severe pain, and he figures out that the water is the cause of the problem. He tries using healing magic, but it isn't working immediately like it does on injuries. The magic isn't working like it should because it is not a wound but a poison. After he finally recovers from the poisoning, the rabbit leads him to a pond where he can get clean and drinkable water. He tastes the water and finds out that it is actually good. Just then, the rabbit feels something and he jumps into the tree out of fear. Ken wonders what is wrong with the rabbit, but decides to join the rabbit in the tree. He knows the rabbit was not even scared like this when he was with the bear. He easily concludes that whatever the rabbit is scared of will actually be dangerous. Seconds later, a giant white snake appears out of the bush, and this is enough to send chills down Ken's spine. Mere looking at the serpent, he knows that the serpent is on top of the food chain inside the forest. He manages to hold himself together till the snake slithers away. It is now 4 days since Ken has been in the forest, and he can't seem to shake the feeling that the snake can be anywhere. He continues to monitor the Grand Grizzly and his family to see how they operate and what they do. He is starting to fall in love with the cute but scary bear family. However, he knows that he has no choice but to terminate them to be able to fulfill the order from Rose. He then makes up his mind that he will go after the bear the next day because he already knows how to go about it. The following day, he is prepared to go, but the rabbit stops him and he decides to listen to the rabbit since it is raining. The next morning, Ken gets ready to leave in an attempt to terminate the Grand Grizzly. He is eager to do this because he believes that he has what it takes to do it. He soon arrives at the bear's den, only to find the corpse of the Grand Grizzly and his mate on the floor. However, there are no traces of their baby anywhere. He starts to wonder what happened to the bear, and the only explanation he has is that the bears were terminated by the giant snake that he came across earlier. The snake didn't eat them, which means he only terminated them for the fun of it. Just then, the baby bear emerges from its hiding place and starts to grieve over the loss of his parents. Ken is heartbroken to see the baby bear in pain, and he decides to avenge his parents for him. He tells the baby bear to wait at the den, and he heads off to search for the giant snake. Back home, Kazuki and Suzune come to check on Ken, only to find out from Tong that he has been away for the past 10 days. They are informed that Ken is being trained by Rose. Rose is the one who decides everything, but even she is not available. Kazuki is seriously worried about Ken because he knows that 10 days is too long to be in the forest all by himself. Suzune calms him down and says Rose is the one who put him up to this and she definitely knows what she is doing. Suzune also has the belief that Ken will return home safely. Soon afterward, Ken is done training, and he has also made a spear from a stick. He then tells Ken to lead him to where the snake is, and it can then run away after doing that. The rabbit agrees to this and starts to head to where the snake is while Ken follows from behind. They soon find the giant snake, but Ken is surprised to see the baby bear fighting the snake. He remembers telling the bear to stay back at the den, but apparently, the bear is boiling with anger over his parents' death. Ken knows that the snake is ultimately dangerous, but he charges toward the snake with the confidence that there is nothing scarier than Rose. He misses his first strike at the snake, and Ken also gets lucky to have missed a deadly strike from the snake. He uses this miss to push his spear into the snake's right eye, but the snake reacts fast and pushes Ken away with its body. Before hitting a tree, Ken activates his healing magic to make sure that he is not wounded. He has successfully damaged the snake, and all he just needs to do now is to keep it up and finish the job. He brings out his knife and decides to attack from the snake's right side, which is blind already. However, the snake tricks him into fully coming at it from the right, and it uses this to launch a surprise attack. The snake grabs Ken by the arm and he screams out in pain. Ken then remembers that he is holding his knife inside of the snake's mouth. He is able to push the knife upward to get the snake to release him. He breaks free from the snake, but he starts to get dizzy from the snake's venom. He has been able to figure out how to get rid of poisoning when he was poisoned by the pond water. All he just has to do is heal himself from the inside out, and this is exactly what he does. He returns to his normal consciousness and he goes after the snake again. This time around, he has the bear supporting him. The bear also attacks the snake, giving Ken the chance to get to the snake's head. He delivers a fatal punch to the snake's head, and before the snake can react, Ken pulls out the spear in its right eye and pushes it into the snake's head. The snake wriggles in pain and finally falls to the ground. Ken lies beside the snake, breathing really heavily. He is happy to have defeated the snake, and the bear shows up beside him. Ken tells the bear that he is currently using all of his mana to neutralize the venom in his body, which means he will not be able to heal the bear in the meantime. Just then, the giant snake rises back up. Ken is paralyzed already, and there is nothing he can do. He wonders how the snake is not dead, but he currently has no means to fight back. Even the bear tries to drag him away, but it is not strong enough. The snake charges toward them with full force, and Ken knows that there is no escape. He starts to think about Suzune, Kazuki, and Rose. Just then, it dawns on him that Rose is the one who caused all of this. He screams out in pain as he calls Rose some ridiculous names. The snake is about to finish him off when Rose appears out of nowhere and lands a devastating blow to the snake's head, thus killing it. Ken is surprised to see Rose, and he also wonders how she came just at the right time. She then reveals that the rabbit told her everything. It turns out that the rabbit is her pet, and its name is Kukuru. Kukuru only acts like he is injured just so he can gain Ken's trust. Rose has been nearby all this while, waiting for the right to step in. She then tells Ken that the giant snake was created by the Demon Lord's army. The snake managed to escape during the first invasion, and this is the reason it has made the forest its home. Rose is surprised that the snake is powerful enough to take down the Grand Grizzly. The Grand Grizzly is so strong that an elite group fails to take it down. Ken is surprised to hear this, and he asks Rose why she will send him to hunt down such a beast. Rose then tells him that his mission was never to defeat the bear. She just wanted to see how strong Ken has become. He has also used this opportunity to gain some experience by fighting an enemy, which is stronger than him. Rose is impressed with Ken and says she will be willing to keep him. Rose realizes that the baby bear has taken a liking to Ken, and she suggests that the bear come with them. The bear will also be carrying Ken on his back. With this, they prepare to return home. Rose turns to Ken, and she lets him know that she heard all the insults that she rained on her. She promises to punish him for that. Rose then says out loud that she is impressed with Ken. She reveals that Ken passed the test that was thrown at him. She then informs Ken that he is now worthy of staying beside her on the battlefield. This is because the two other healers never got to the level that he got to when it came to dedication and the like. Rose then tells Ken to prepare for what is coming, because she is confident that the demon army is prepared for an attack already. Meanwhile, the Demon King and his army are preparing to attack Linger. Rose then informs Ken that he will be with her on the battlefield. They will be on the front lines together, and Ken will be her right-hand man. Ken asks about Tong and the others, and Rose reveals that there are two other healers, but their tasks are different. Rose urges Ken to steal himself out before the time runs out. Ken stares at his palm and wonders if he is actually built to withstand something like that. Now in the Demon Kingdom, the Demon King is seen discussing with one of his commanders, Amila. He asks her how preparations have been so far, and she reveals that the army is ready already. She assures the king that they will begin their advance shortly. The Demon King wants the second invasion to be much better than the first, but he also tells Amila that he is not expecting her to fight to the death. After this discussion, Amila leaves the throne room. He runs into Hyrule, the one known as the Demon Doctor. Hyrule blushes and says Amila should try to call him by his real name and not his nickname. Amila is about to leave when the Demon Doctor stops her and says he just completed a prototype of one of the demon beasts, and he wants Amila to come check it out. He takes Amila to his lab, where he shows her a giant snake like the one Ken and Rose defeated in the forest. He says the name of the serpent is Baljana, and he is the Prototype 72. Amila scoffs and reminds him that Prototype 71 ran away after it was wounded by Siglis during the first invasion. The Demon Doctor then assures Amila that Prototype 72 is much stronger than its predecessor. Amila then reveals her worries about the human healers on the battlefield. They are always there to save their wounded and prevent them from dying. She is more worried about their leader, Rose, who appears to have a strong hatred for the Demon King. The Demon Doctor points out that Amila might want Rose for herself, but she will not be going into battle this time around. Amila reveals her plans to send the demon who is known as the Immortal Mage of Darkness, the Black Knight, into battle to lead the troops this time around. Now in the human nation, Ken wakes up the next morning, and he talks about how wonderful it is to finally have a bed to sleep on. After he is up, he gets some fruit from the cafeteria and takes them to the baby bear. Surprisingly, the bear cub likes the fruit, and Ken decides to take a bite too. While he is busy feeding the bear, Kukuru emerges from behind and shows his desire for the fruit too. Ken wants to deny him the fruit, but he is just too cute, and Ken finds it difficult to do that. He is forced to give Kukuru one of the fruits so he can enjoy it too. It turns out that Ken already has a name for the bear, which is Blurrin. Rose shows up, and Ken explains to her why he named the bear Blurrin. Rose then tells him that she has taken permission from the king, and because of this, they are free to keep the bear as property of the rescue team. However, the bear will have to earn his keep. Blurrin hides away out of fear when he hears this. Moments later, Rose shows Ken what she means by Blurrin earning his keep. She tells Ken to carry the bear on his back, and this will serve as battlefield simulation training. He just needs to think of the bear as someone who needs to be rescued or a wounded soldier. Rose then orders Ken to start running, and he should put more into it. Ken gets on it and believes that this should be easy. He is in the middle of this when Tong suddenly appears out of the shrub and tries to take him down, but he manages to dodge him. Another member of the team does the same, but Ken evades him too. He screams out and demands to know what is wrong with them. They remind him that he is in battlefield simulation training, and this is how it will feel like when he is out there. 1 hour later, Ken is still on this, but the team has not been able to take him down. He faces several challenges from the team but manages to keep going. However, 4 hours later, he suddenly drops to the floor, not having the strength to continue again. He wonders why he cannot move again, and Rose shows up to tell him that he has just found what his endurance limit is on the battlefield. She explains that humans feel exhaustion from nervousness, fear, and impatience. All of these contribute to the reason why he will run out of strength faster than normal. Ken asks Rose what he is supposed to do, and she lets him know that building the mental strength that doesn't fade in the face of fear is the way out. She places her hand on Ken's head and heals him so he can get back on his feet. Once your mana is restored, spend the entire afternoon running around the castle town. These are Rose's words to Ken. Ken asks if he will be carrying Blurrin the entire time, and she says yes. Soon afterward, Ken gets down to running around the town. He expects the people to start running away from him because he is carrying a bear on his back, but he is shocked when he realizes that the people are exceptionally calm around him. He finds a woman who sells the fruits that Blurrin likes, and asks the woman for the name of the fruit, to which she answers, Peffles. He then further asks the woman why everyone is so calm around him, even though he is carrying a monster on his back. The woman then reveals that the people know that he is from the rescue team. They are used to the rescue team running around and doing unusual things, so things like this don't really scare them again. Since he has no money to buy fruit, he decides that he will buy it later. However, the woman decides to give him one fruit as a souvenir, which he and the bear appreciate. Ken starts thinking of visiting the castle since they are close. He wants to check on Suzune and Kazuki. He runs past a man wearing a lab coat, and the man starts running after him in an attempt to stop him. The man soon gets tired and he falls to the ground. This is the moment Ken realizes that he is the one the man is trying to call. He stops to check on the man, and he takes him someplace safe to heal him up. The guy thanks Ken for the save and says he feels much better now. Ken then asks the man why he was trying to get his attention. The man says he only wanted to greet his junior, and this leaves Ken confused. The guy realizes that Rose hasn't told him everything yet, and he introduces himself as Orga Fleur. He says he is one of the 2 other healers. He then talks about how he had no idea that they have new members who are summoned, heroes. Orga is impressed with the fact that Ken can actually keep up with Rose's training methods. He says he and his sister were not able to. His sister is the other healer, and she is 5 years younger than Orga. The two run a clinic in the city where they heal the citizens. Ken then asks him why he collapsed earlier on when he was a healer. He explains that he is not good at healing himself. He is only efficient while healing others. Their own tasks on the battlefield are to stay at the rear and have Tong and his team bring the wounded soldiers to them. He and his sister do not have the strength to run around and heal people like the captain. This is when Ken reveals that Rose has asked him to join her on the front lines. Orga says this is a good thing because some soldiers die on the front lines because there is no one to heal them. Orga mentions the fact that Rose must really trust him, and this is the reason he asked him to be with her on the front lines. After this, Orga stands up and says it is time for him to return to the clinic before his sister starts looking for him. The two say goodbye to each other, and Ken leaves. Just then, Orga's sister Ururu shows up and berates her brother for staying out so long. Orga informs her sister that he just found someone interesting, but she will know about that soon enough. Moments later, Ken arrives at the castle gate and asks the guard if he can come in with the bear on his back, and he says yes. He knows that he is not a threat as long as he is from the rescue team. This comes as a surprise to Ken, and he wonders why people trust Rose so much. Ken makes his way into the castle where he finds Suzune training with the rest of the troops. Suzune is happy to see him, and she immediately takes a break away from training. She sits down to look at the interesting blue creature that came with Ken. Ken then explains how he came to acquire the bear by going through some training in the forest. All while he is explaining this, Suzune is busy staring at the bear because she is totally in love with it. She asks Ken for permission to touch the bear, which he gives her. She tries to touch the bear, but the bear slaps her hand away. Instead of Suzune being angry at this, she gets more excited about it. Ken then says calling out the bear's name should do the drill, but this makes it worse, and the bear just holds Suzune's hand in his mouth. The bear sucks her hand after sucking her hand. He jumps on Ken's hand too. Shortly afterward, Ken notices blisters on Suzune's palm, and she says this is a result of the intense sword training that she has been undergoing. Ken then holds her hand and helps her to heal all the blisters so they can return to normal. Ken reveals that he came to visit Suzune and Kazuki. Suzune informs Ken that Kazuki is probably out of the kingdom by now. He, Siglis, and some of the troops are out there to gain experience fighting monsters. The scene shifts to the forest to show Kazuki, Siglis, and the soldiers in the forest. Siglis is confident that the demon forces will be stronger this time around than the last time that they came. However, he is relieved that they have Suzune and Kazuki to help them out. Kazuki realizes that the people are really depending on them, and he tells Siglis that he is going to try his best. Their conversation is disrupted when some monsters emerge from the forest and ambush them. Kazuki and the rest of his comrades arm themselves in preparation for the wolves that they are about to go against. Back in the castle, Ken hopes that Kazuki is fine, and Suzune says he should be since they have only been gone a couple of days. Suzune then reveals that she will be entering into the forest to gain experience once Kazuki returns from the current trip. After their discussion, Ken gets up to start heading back to the rescue team base. As he exits the castle, he thinks about how hard Suzune and Kazuki are trying. Because of this, Kazuki is also determined to do all in his power to make sure that he can save them when the time comes. He doesn't want to hide in safety while they battle it out with the enemies. That night, Ken lays Blurren to sleep, and he is about to enter the house when he sees Rose standing in front of him. She asks him how the training was, and he explains that he is already getting used to it. He then uses this moment to tell Rose that he has found a way to overcome his fear. He has come to the conclusion that he can't fight and can't kill anyone either. However, he is prepared to save his friends and anyone who needs his help because he is part of the rescue team. Rose is impressed with what he said, and she also uses the opportunity to encourage him. This is the first time that Ken will truly feel like he is a member of the rescue team. The next morning, Rose wakes Ken up and informs him that the king is requesting his presence. Apparently, it is time for Suzune to go for his experience training, and Ken will be escorting her. On their way to the castle, Ken asks Rose why he is asked or obligated to follow Suzune into the forest. Rose then reveals that he was also asked to come when Kazuki was heading into the forest, but she was the one who denied the request since Ken just came back from his own training back then. She knew he would still be exhausted and didn't want to stress him the more. She then says all he has to do is heal Suzune and her party in case they sustain injuries during their exploit. The mission will last for 3 days and 2 nights, she says. They get to the castle and Suzune is clearly happy to see Ken. She talks about how surprised she was when she found out that Ken would be escorting them. She is more excited now that she realizes that Blurren will be joining them on the mission. Suzune then introduces Ken to the 2 guys who will also be joining them on the mission. There is Aruku, who is a knight, and Korin, who is a mage. Ken takes a good look at Aruku to try and remember where he knows him. Aruku reveals that he normally works as the castle gatekeeper. Before they leave, Rose gives Suzune some piece of advice. She lets her know that Ken's magic is not unlimited, which means he also has his own limit. She wants Suzune to be careful out there, because Ken will only be able to heal her if she is still alive, and not when she does something rash that leads to her death. Suzune appreciates the advice, and Rose scoffs at Ken because he was also expecting advice from her. After this, Rose takes her leave and sends them off too. Later on, Celia finds Kazuki practicing in the field, and she runs over there to try and discourage him. She reminds him that he just got back from training in the forest, and he is supposed to be training, but Kazuki claims that he has already recovered all of his lost strength over the night. Celia leaves, looking disappointed after she realizes that there is no way she is convincing Kazuki to stop training. On the other hand, Ken and the other 3 are on their way to the darkness of Linger. When Ken realizes that this is where they are headed, he remembers that Blurren's family died in the forest, and wonders what the bear will feel about going back to such a place. However, there is no way to get Blurren's opinion because he is asleep on Ken's back. Suzune wants to use this opportunity to touch Blurren, but Ken smacks her hand away. Blurren finally wakes up and Ken tells him that it is time that he walk by himself. Suzune wants to please the bear, and she offers to carry him on his back. Ken tries to stop her from doing this, but she is way forward. She soon realizes that she has made a mistake when the bear climbs on top of her, and the bear's weight totally crashes her to the floor. This injures her, and Ken is forced to heal her. Ken has been forced to use some of his magic before they even get to the main event of things. As they proceed further, the mage's staff starts to glow to inform them that something is approaching then. Moments later, the party is ambushed by bandits, who have been hiding out in the bushes. The bandits plan to rob the party of their valuables. Ken and Suzune don't seem any concerned about the guys because they don't see them as a threat. To make things worse, Suzune is even glad that they are faced with bandits. The bandits soon realize that they are in a bit of trouble when they find out that the party is escorted by a blue bear. Suzune shows the bandits who is the boss when she attacks them with her electrifying magic. She is able to control her power to an extent to make sure that the bandits are not dying from her attacks. Ken tells her that she is free to hit them how she likes because he is just going to heal them afterward. Upon hearing this, Suzune continues to stun them with her lightning powers. They are in the middle of this when the mage's staff starts to glow again. Before they know what is happening, ball boars emerge from the bush and swarm them. The knight is shocked to see this and says the boars' territory should be deeper inside the woods, which means their presence in that area is unusual. The boars are acting erratically, and one of them is charging towards Suzune. Ken realizes that Suzune is in danger, and he quickly grabs her. The two get hit by the boar and are sent flying into the sky. As they descend towards the ground, Ken keeps his healing magic on as they cut through the bushes and trees. They finally fall into a river, and Suzune appears stunned. Ken recognizes the river, and knows that they will soon flow into a waterfall. He tells Suzune to brace herself in preparation for this. He shields Suzune as they descend into the waterfall. Ken passes out, and Suzune is obliged to drag him out. She is making promises about saving Ken when he wakes up. She quickly pushes him away out of embarrassment. Suzune has a cut on the side of her face and Ken quickly heals her. The two soon realize that they have lost their backpack while they were falling. There are little things for them to survive on while they are inside the bush. Ken suggests that they find shelter for the night so that they can find their way the following day. Suzune has no idea where they can sleep, and Ken suggests that they sleep in the trees. Ken slept in the trees the last time he was in this same forest, and he hopes that Suzune will be able to do that. Suzune lets it out that she has never climbed trees, and it dawns on Ken that Suzune might be from a comfortable family. After they have found a place that is comfortable for them, Suzune changes into another cloth. Later that evening, Suzune stays by the river, and she dips her hands inside the river. She releases electricity inside the water to terminate a bunch of fish that they can use for dinner. Ken is impressed by this, and he continues to urge Suzune to do more with her powers. He even asks her to make fire with her powers, and she does this just to continue impressing Ken. Later that night, they are in the cave when some venom monkeys show up. Ken has read about them, and this is the reason he knows their name. Suzune is in love with the monkeys, and she reveals her urge to touch them. Ken tells her not to do that. He says the monkeys are not ferocious, but they are poisonous as their name implies. Even after this warning, Suzune still goes ahead to touch one of the monkeys. She is busy enjoying herself when the monkey bites her and she immediately passes out. Ken rushes over and quickly heals her before things become worse than it is. Back at home, Kazuki just learned from the king that his friends have gone missing. He gets agitated about this and immediately thinks of going out there to search for them, but Rose shows up and stops him. She says there is no need for him to go into the forest to search for them. She assures him that Ken is with Suzune, and she trusts her right-hand man to keep Suzune safe. She says Ken is not someone who will die easily, and as long as he is alive, Suzune too will be fine. Back in the woods, Ken suggests that they take turns sleeping, so that they will have someone to keep watch while the other is sleeping. Ken is the first to lie down to try and sleep. Moments later, Suzune speaks out and asks him if he is asleep, to which he replies to her and says no. Suzune then asks him how he feels about being summoned into this world. Ken says it is a difficult question, because he wants to go back, but at the same time, he doesn't want to. However, Suzune says she wants to stay in this world. This is because she prefers this world to where she came from. She has no attachment to her family and friends back in real life. She sees this fantasy world as a place to escape from her shackles. She feels like there is nothing holding her back in this world, unlike the other world. To Suzune, she is free in this world, and this is the freedom she has been looking for. Ken then starts to explain how he felt when he just got into this world. He has always wanted a way to escape his boring life, and this world proves to be the way out. When he arrived, he thought about how he would become stronger, so that he would not be in the way of Suzune and Kazuki. However, he has been able to steel his resolve in a way in which he will be able to help his friends and whoever needs his help. The two agree on this, and they decide that saving the people of this world will be the best thing for them. This is their home for now, and it needs their protection. After this discussion, the two are able to talk more about their relationship. Suzune is able to figure out that Ken has always been interested in her but has never approached her. Ken soon lies down to sleep to avoid more of this talk, but Suzune is happy to have gotten the chance to talk to Ken more than before. The following morning, Ken and Suzune begin their journey to leave the forest. As they navigate their way in the forest, Ken tells Suzune to be careful and also be prepared for battle, due to the fact that they can be attacked at any time. Suddenly, they see the bush in front of them moving. The two get defensive, but they heave a sigh of relief when they find out that what they are afraid of is none other than Blurrin. Blurrin is also happy to see Ken, and he jumps into him. Behind them is the knight, but he passes out after he sees Suzune and Ken. Later on, Aruku wakes up and reveals that Blurrin suddenly ran off while they were searching for them. He figures that Blurrin must have caught Ken's scent, and this is the reason he started running after him too. Ken heals Aruku's injury and commends him for a good job. Just then, Blurrin catches another scent and starts moving toward there. The party follows the bear, and Ken finds out that Blurrin still remembers his former home. He explains to the group that the place they are standing in is where Blurrin and his family used to live, but his father and mother were killed by a giant snake. Blurrin then shows Ken that he is ready to move on when he urges them to leave the place. Apparently, Blurren has made the decision that his place is by Ken's side. Upon returning to the castle, the king welcomes Ken and Suzune. He offers his heartfelt apology for what they had to go through while they were in the forest. Ken says there is no need to apologize, because he is already used to things like this. It then dawns on him that he is not supposed to reveal such crucial information. The king must not be aware that he is undergoing such strenuous training while he is with Rose. The king then asks him how training with the rescue team has been so far. He looks at Rose, who is also in the building, before answering the question. He simply tells the king that everything is going so well to avoid Rose's wrath and further intense training. After he has given this answer, he looks at Rose, and Rose smiles at him to let him know that she would have ended him if he answered wrongly. The king then says Suzune's field training will be rescheduled for later, and urges her and the others to rest while they are at it. Ken and Suzune are free to leave the throne room, but the minister, Sergio, tells Siglis and Rose to wait behind. This comes as a surprise to Ken, who starts to wonder why the two are asked to stay behind. Ken makes a joke out of this and says there is the possibility that they are getting fired. Just then, they hear Kazuki and Celia calling them from behind. Kazuki catches up to them and reveals how worried he has been when he hears that the two are missing. Celia backs this up and she tells them that Kazuki is ready to storm out of the castle so he can search for them. Ken tries to tell them how Suzune was poisoned by a venom monkey, but she quickly covers his mouth with cloth to avoid embarrassing her. Later on, Kazuki tells Ken that Rose really trusts him, and she is the reason why he didn't bother to enter the forest to search for them. After a brief discussion, Ken and Suzune leave, while Celia and Kazuki are left behind. As the two depart, Celia talks about the bond between the trio. Kazuki says this is so because they are all from another world. Celia wonders if there is space for her in that bond. She then talks about how Kazuki is still addressing her formally, which she doesn't like. She wants Kazuki to start addressing her just as Suzune and the rest do. Kazuki accepts this and starts calling Celia how she wants to be called. Celia's face turns red from blushing after Kazuki makes this change. Now in the throne room, there is a meeting ongoing between the king, Rose, Sergio, and Siglis. The king is informed that the bandits who attacked Suzune in the bush were interrogated. They revealed that there were fewer monsters in the grasslands, which is quite unusual. The king then points out that there is only one explanation for this. This means the monsters residing in the grasslands have fled the area. For them to have done this, there is the possibility that they are running from something scary. Siglis concludes that the monsters were probably trying to escape the demon army. It is safe for them to assume that the demon army is already making their move, and it will be better not to underestimate them this time around. Siglis is sure that the demons will come at them with everything that they have to try and conquer the kingdom. The king puts this into consideration, and he tells the men to start preparing. He dismisses the men but tells Rose to stay behind. He then makes a special request from Rose. Rose already knows what the king wants from her, and she is ready to do it before he even opens his mouth to formally ask her. Rose already knows that the king wants her to head out and scout the demon army. She has the fastest legs in the kingdom, and this is the reason she is the most suitable for the task. Rose is about to leave when the king stops her and says he has something else to ask. He wants to know if she will reconsider leading the troops again, but Rose says she has no intention of doing this. Apparently, Rose's men once die while they are on the battlefield, and she blames herself for not being able to save them. It was during this encounter that she had the scar that claimed her right eye, and she believes that the scar is there to always remind her of what happened. The king tries to dissuade her from blaming herself, but she insists that she is to be blamed for what happened. She has come to the conclusion that once someone dies, there is nothing to be done for the person again. This is the reason that Rose created the rescue team to help out on the battlefield. The king agrees that the rescue team really did help out during the last battle. The king then says Rose should be happy since she already achieved her dream, but Rose is not satisfied yet. The other reason she created the team is to find a subordinate who will not die. The king is shocked to hear this, and he says it is quite impossible for someone not to die. Rose replies that this is the exact reason she designed such a gruesome training, to try and find someone who will endure and survive the training routine. The king immediately realizes that he is talking about Ken. Rose explains to the king that Ken has been exceptional in everything he does. He doesn't like to give up, and his will to live is strong too. In addition to this, he has maintained a rebellious attitude toward her, and this is one of the reasons that she wants him. She has made the decision to make Ken the ideal healer. Rose soon realizes that she has digressed from the main topic, and she apologizes for this. She bows to the king and says it is time for her to head out for her patrol. Later that night, Ken is informed by Alec that Rose left a letter behind for him. No one knows where Rose is, but she left a letter addressed to Ken. Ken picks up the letter to find out that it is a task from Rose. There is another sealed letter there, which she wants him to deliver to someone. She had already drawn the map of where he was going to deliver the letter. All he has to do is to follow the map and get the letter to where it should be. Elsewhere, the demon army is busy building a bridge that will connect them to the human kingdom. The storm is not helping, and it is making things a bit slow for them. While they are in the middle of this, Amila realizes that the Black Knight holds little or no regard for her, even though she is his superior. She tries to assert her dominance, but the Black Knight just makes fun of her and leaves. He tells her to call on him when they are done building the bridge. The demon doctor shows up to make fun of Amila for her inability to control the Black Knight. Amila reveals that the construction of the bridge will soon be done so that they can finally begin the full invasion of the Linger kingdom. Just then, the foot soldiers find out that there is someone on the other side. Amila doesn't seem concerned because she knows that the invasion will already be underway before the scout can even report back. Just then, a log of wood comes flying at them, and it rips the bridge apart. Amila takes a good look at the person who threw the log, and she realizes that it is none other than Rose. She realizes that it is her sworn nemesis, and she screams out from the frustration she is feeling inside of her. With this, Rose believes that she has been able to delay the invasion for a couple more days and give the kingdom more time to prepare. The following day, Ken gets down to the mission that Rose left behind for him. He starts walking around the city, using the map to try and track down the house where he is supposed to deliver the letter. He has been walking around for quite some minutes, and he knows that the situation is already getting weird. He soon comes to the store of the woman selling fruits, and the woman tells him that there is fresh produce if he wants. While they are discussing, there is a girl who is watching Ken from her hiding place. Moments later, Ken finally makes it to the location on the map. He makes his presence unknown before entering the house. He comes across a girl who turns out to be Orga's sister, Ururu. Ururu sees the uniform that Ken is putting on, and she immediately figures out that he is from the rescue team. She tries to remember the name that her brother told her, but she finds it hard to do so until Ken reminds her by himself. She properly introduces herself to Ken, and it is during this introduction that Ururu finds out that she is a year older than Ken. It then dawns on Ken that he is in the clinic where Orga was talking about the first time that they met. Ururu says her brother is currently examining a patient, and she suggests that he come and watch how it plays out. They get to the examination room, but Ururu insists that they watch from the door because her brother loses concentration very easily. Ken then watches closely to see how Orga does his thing. Ken can see that the color of Orga's mana is quite different from his. Orga heals a boy right in front of them, and it is the boy who points out that there are two people watching them. Orga is surprised to see Ken at the clinic, and Ken reveals his mission to deliver the letter to them. Ururu and Ken start to gist about the rescue team, while Orga breaks the seal on the letter and reads it. After reading the letter, he wears a worried face, but quickly puts it off to prevent the two from figuring out the nature of the letter. Ururu talks about how enthusiastic Rose was when she started training her and her brother, but they were not able to cope with her training methods. Just then, a guy comes rushing in. He tells Orga that his help is needed concerning his friend. He fell from a roof he was working on, and two others also got injured in this process. Orga, Ururu, and Ken immediately rush to the scene. The healers then pick the injured people one by one to try and heal them. This is Ken's first time trying to heal a person who is not on the rescue team or Suzune. He also remembers that this type of injury is what he will be dealing with on the battlefield. He starts feeling nervous, but Orga finds a way to calm him down. He assures him that there is no difference in what he has been doing before. You have the power to heal the person in front of you, Orga says. Upon hearing this, Ken is able to believe in himself, and he gets the healing job done. After they are done, they leave the scene, and Orga tells Ken that he is free to come and visit anytime he wants. He can also come to the clinic to help them out because it is pretty hard for the two of them to handle all alone, Orga says. Ken assures the two that he will come again. He bids them farewell and leaves. After his departure, Orga informs her sister that the letter from Rose is to inform them that a war is looming. They are informed that the demon army will soon be invading, and Rose wants the two to be prepared. Both Ken and Ururu have no combat experiences, which means this will be their first time out on the battleground. Their belief in their ability will be the only thing to help them out on the battlefield, he says. On the other hand, Ken makes a pit stop at the fruit stall to get Blurren's favorite fruit for him. Just then, the girl who has been watching Ken all this while shows up. She approaches Ken and says he is the only one who can change the future that is about to happen. The girl touches his hand, and Ken is able to see a vision where the Black Knight stands on the corpses of the heroes and the human troops. Ken comes back to reality, breathing heavily because of what he just witnessed. The girl tells him that he will be the one to pay the debt for the huge favor and runs away. After the girl's departure, Ken manages to recover from the shock that he is feeling. He starts to look for the girl in an attempt to find out more about what she showed him. He doesn't want to believe that Kazuki and Suzune will both die in the coming wars. He soon finds a guard and asks him if he has seen any girl, but he says no. He tries describing what the girl looks like, but the guard insists that he has not seen anybody with such a description. He is in the middle of this when Rose appears behind him. The guard vanishes immediately. He sets his eyes on Rose. Ken is surprised to see Rose, and he asks her where she has been all this while. She reveals that she has been outside the kingdom, scouting out the enemy. The enemy is trying to build a bridge to cross the river that leads into the kingdom, she says. However, Rose reveals that she has delayed the construction of the bridge, which is enough to give them a couple of days for preparation. Ken makes fun of Rose when he hears this, and he tries to remind her what the term scouting means. Ken gets squeezed in the face because of this, and Rose only lets him go after he screams out in pain. After this, the two leave the city and start heading home. Ken tells Rose about the fox girl he is looking for. It appears that Rose knows who the girl is. She reveals her surprise that the girl is only 12 years old, but she was able to escape danger and elude kidnappers on her way to the kingdom. Ken is surprised to hear this, and asks Rose why the kidnappers will be after her. Rose reveals that beastkins are considered valuable prey, because some are known to have special magic affinities. Ken then asks Rose if the beast people are known to make people see strange illusions. Rose scoffs and says she has heard about some beastkins who are powerful, and they are known as the Oracle of Time because they can see the future. These kinds of people are very rare, which makes them well protected among the beast people. Rose then demands to know why Ken will want to learn about the beastkins, to which he lies and says he is just being curious. Ken starts to wonder if the girl he saw is one of these people. They get to the junction that leads to their house, but Rose proceeds to the castle and tells Ken to head on home because she still has some things to discuss with the king. Rose gets to the palace and tells the king about everything she learned while she was out scouting. The king apologizes for what Rose had to go through to get the information that she has. He then thanks her for successfully delaying the enemy's invasion for a couple of days. Now that they are sure that the enemy is coming to attack them, the king plans to inform the entire nation of this the following day. He tells Sergio to make preparations for this, and he tells Siglis to inform Suzune and Kazuki about this. They should be informed this night, he says. That night, Kazuki and Suzune make their way to the throne room, and they wonder why they are being summoned. The two hope that they are not being summoned for what they are thinking. On their way to the room, they run into Celia. Things get somewhat between her and Kazuki as usual. After some brief awkward situations and staring at each other, Kazuki and Suzune bid the lady farewell and continued to where they were going. Suzune then asks him what is going on between him and Celia, but Kazuki says there is nothing, to which Suzune decides not to press further. Later that night, Ken finds it hard to sleep because of what the girl told him. He starts to wonder what could be wrong and how he can save the heroes. He is in the middle of this when he sees 3 light bubbles that are visible from the window. He stands up to investigate this, and he finds out that the cause of the light bubbles is none other than Kazuki, who is standing outside the house. He is surprised to see Kazuki at such a late hour, but he still steps outside to meet him. The two sit down to talk, and Ken assumes that Kazuki is finding it hard to sleep because he has training the next morning. However, Kazuki says he is not worried about that. Kazuki then tells Ken what exactly worries him. He reveals that the king has informed him and Suzune that the demons will be attacking anytime soon. The heroes are expected to play a vital role in the war that is about to happen. This is the real reason that Kazuki is awake, because he is seriously worried about going to war. He left the palace and kept walking until he found himself at the rescue team base. In short, Kazuki is afraid to go to war. He reveals how terrified he was when he faced monsters, not to talk of actual war, that actually claimed lives. He is even more worried because the people of this world depend on him. They have been nice to him, and they expect great things in return for this. Ken cuts in to talk and says he is more impressed that Kazuki is under pressure. He says it is actually good that Kazuki is putting himself first for once. You don't need to live to the expectations of the people, he says. Kazuki asks Ken what his own decision is, and he says he has made up his mind to fight the demon army. He is very scared about this, but he has made up his mind about this. Kazuki is surprised to hear this, and he points out that Ken can actually die in a war that he was accidentally dragged into. But Ken doesn't seem to mind. Ken talks about all the things he has thought of that have made him decide to go to war. He adds that Kazuki is among those factors, and this gets into Kazuki really deep. Upon hearing this, Kazuki makes up his mind and says he is now ready to fight alongside Ken. He doesn't know if he can live up to the standard of a hero, but he is sure that he can still fight to protect his friends, and this includes Ken. This comes as a surprise to Ken, who then asks Kazuki why he has decided to fight. Kazuki says Ken is fighting, which makes it just right for him to fight. Kazuki knows he will feel much better once Ken and Suzune are by his side. The two then make a fist bump in agreement to protect the kingdom and its people. The two end up saying farewell to each other with smiles on their faces. After Kazuki's departure, Ken turns back to find Suzune standing behind him. He is totally shocked to see this, and it turns out that Suzune actually heard everything that the two talked about. Suzune wants to talk out of context, but Ken says he is very sure that Suzune followed Kazuki because she was worried about him. Ken then reveals that he still does not want Kazuki to fight in the war, even though he is the one who convinced him to do this. Suzune then asks if Ken doesn't want her to fight too, and he says yes. However, he already considers Suzune's story a different one, because she already has her mind made up that she will be staying in that world. Suzune agrees to this, and decides that it is time for her to leave too. Tomorrow is going to be hectic, she says. The following day, the king stands in front of the entire nation to inform them of the latest developments. He tells them that the demon army will be invading them anytime soon, but the nation has plans to intercept them in the grasslands. He is sure that the demon army will be stronger than the last time, and this is expected. However, the king is also confident that the nation's army has also gotten stronger. To spice things up, 2 heroes have been added to their ranks, which will make things even easier for them. He assures the people that the rescue team is also there to help them out on the battlefield. The rescue team is always there to carry the soldiers to safety and also heal them when they are wounded. He tries to calm the nation by telling them that the odds might not be in their favor, but he is confident that the kingdom of Linger will come out victorious in the war about to come. He is sure about this because he trusts the fearless troops that the nation has to protect them. He informs the troops that they will be heading out, and the king's speech is more than enough to raise the confidence and morale of the troops. Later that day, Celia is in her room when her maid informs her that Kazuki is there to see her. She wastes no time in presenting herself to Kazuki, who is standing by the door. Kazuki then tells her that he will be leaving with the troops the following day. Celia's eyes are filled with water, but she informs Kazuki that she will be praying earnestly for their victory. Kazuki thanks Celia for this and bids her farewell. Celia stands in the hallway as she looks at Kazuki walking away in his new armor and cape. At the rescue team base, Ururu is busy having fun with Blurin and Kukuru. She tries touching the bear, but he keeps slapping her hand off. She soon becomes playful with the bear and rabbit. Ken leaves her to do her thing while he talks with her brother. Orga then says Ururu has always been spirited, but she is currently nervous and only trying to hide it. This is the reason she is busy playing with the bear and rabbit to hide what she is feeling. This will be her first battle, and she is only trying to distract herself from thinking about the possibilities that come with the battle. Ken and Orga are still in the middle of this conversation when Tong shows up to tell Ken that Rose wants to see him in her room. This is a shock to Ken, as he has never been called to Rose's room before today. He starts to wonder what Rose has in mind to do to him. Without a doubt, his intrusive thoughts start to take over, but Tong gets him back to his senses and says the boss is waiting for him. He gets to Rose's room and she asks him about what they discussed before about their battle plan. Ken says Rose already told him that he would be on the front lines with her, healing the troops. Rose then tells her that they will not be on the front lines when the war begins. They will be at the rear where Tong and the others will be bringing the wounded soldiers to them. There is no point staying on the front lines from the start, since there will not be any soldiers who will be wounded. The front lines will be chaotic, which will make them an easy target for the enemies because they are the first squad that the enemies will want to get rid of. Rose then adds that Ken needs to be careful of whom he heals when he is on the battlefield. Ken assumes that Rose is telling her not to heal the enemy, but Rose corrects him and says he is talking about soldiers with minor injury. He should try to differentiate between soldiers who are minimally injured, but can still fight so that he will not get in their way. In short, Rose wants Ken's decision-making to be top-notch when he is out there. After this, she hands Ken a box and tells him to open it. He does this, and it turns out to be a uniform that is neatly wrapped inside the box. Rose tells him that the uniform is mainly for the rescue team, and it is designed to stand out on the battlefield. She urges Ken to try it on, and when he does, it looks good on him. Rose gets closer to Ken and becomes even stricter at the same time. She lets him know that healers are not immortals, which is the reason he needs to be careful when he is out on the field. She tells him not to sacrifice himself and not make rash decisions when he is out there. Ken agrees to what she says and tells her that he will protect himself while also protecting others. After this pep talk, Ken packs the uniform back into the box and leaves the room. As he walked away, he talked about his determination to protect Kazuki and Suzune regardless of what he saw in the vision. Soon afterward, Ken and the rest of the healing team begin their journey to find and intercept the demons. Ururu is already complaining of how far they have been traveling, and her brother reminds her that they need to get very far away from the nation if they are to fight the demons. Ken then asks Rose about the physiology of the demons. Rose explains to him that demons are demi-humans with twisted horns on their heads. They might look like humans, but demons are physically stronger, and they have more mana than humans. In short, they surpass humans, and this is not only their officers, but their regular soldiers as well. Rose asks Ken if he is scared, but he says no. He makes a joke about knowing someone who is scarier, and he is obviously talking about Rose. Ken talks about the hellish training he has undergone under Rose, and says this has molded him. Rose looks at him with a side eye, and he holds his hands high in fear that Rose is about to strike him. However, Rose does nothing, because she is carried away in her thoughts. She remembers something that makes her place her hand on her right eye. A flashback scene goes back to 5 years earlier, when Rose still has her 2 eyes intact. She was the commander of the Linger Knights, and she is seen making her way into the throne room. She gets there, and the king informs both her and Siglis that there have been sightings of demons in the grasslands. The king says there have been no casualties so far, but that doesn't mean they have to relax. To be safe, the king ordered that merchants be assigned guards when they were traveling to keep them safe. He knows the demons are not to be messed with because they are strong, and he urges his people to be careful. After the briefing, Rose leaves the throne room. After leaving the throne room, Siglis approaches her to talk about the demons and their mobilization. He is worried that the demons have gathered enough strength and they plan to invade. Rose sees this as a possibility, and the two plan to gather their troops in preparation for the attack. After they have discussed this, the two go their separate ways. Rose's deputy commander, Al, shows up. She tries talking to her boss, but she is lost in thought of what they are to do in preparation for the demons. The deputy commander continues calling on her boss, and Rose is forced to knock her on the head just to get to back off. Even with this, she doesn't back off, and she reveals that she is aware of the demons. Because of this, Rose hits her again in the head, scolding her for always eavesdropping on classified meetings. The lady cries out, complaining that her boss is too hard on her. The two leave the castle together and head to their base. Owl talks about defeating the enemies, and Rose berates her for being too confident. She says it is bad to underestimate enemies, and when Owl tries to defend what she said, Rose changes her mind and says she will be overseeing their training that afternoon. Owl screams out in pain because she knows that she has put herself and the rest of the squad in trouble. Owl tries to dissuade her from this by reminding her that she is now the battalion commander and she will not have the time, but Rose's mind is made up already. They get back home and the two are welcomed by the knights. The knights notice that there is something wrong with All, and when they ask her, she blows off the question. However, Rose shows them why the deputy is acting that way when she mentions the fact that she will be in charge of training. The knights scream out because they already know that All has said or done something to push the commander. The knights end up ganging up on her and beating her to a pulp because of what she did. She begs Rose to make them stop, but Rose says it is none of her business. A week later, the king calls Rose to inform her that the demons are now attacking monsters in the human nation. The attacks have become successive, and this forces the king to tell Rose to investigate this and also use force where necessary. After she receives this order, Rose mobilizes her knights and tells them that they will be moving out in the morning. All tries to motivate the team, but she ends up receiving a beating from them. They blame her for everything they have gone through for the past week. Rose tells Kukuru that he will be staying at home because she doesn't want him to get hurt. His ability to track monsters would have been valuable, but Rose is not ready to put him in harm's way. The team goes wild when they hear that Rose will be joining them on the mission. They know that they will be able to fight to the best of their abilities because they have their boss there to heal and motivate them. The following day, the team gets down to business. They get on their horses and make their way into the forest. That night, they made camp because it was already dark. They explored some of the forest, but they haven't found anything. One of them suggests that they explore the west side of the forest, but they know that the west side is the most dangerous of all. Owl concurs with this and mentions the feeling she is having about the west side. The guys agree to do this because it is Owl's wish, and she is the deputy director after all. Once this is settled, Owl tells the team that it is time for them to sleep. However, they will take turns watching the fire. Rose offers to be the first watcher while the rest sleeps. Moments later, Rose speaks to All because she is aware that she is awake. All knows that she is caught already, and she decides to stand up and talk to her boss about what is on her mind. All asks Rose why she chose her as the deputy commander because she sees herself as unqualified for the job. All she has been doing is writing reports and sending equipment requests, which pretty much makes her an errand runner. Rose says she is doing a pretty good job, and she is not one to complain. She even plans to hand over the mantle of commander to her in the future, and this shocks All to her bones. Since she is in charge of the battalion now, she would one day like Owl to be in charge of the unit because she cannot lead the two together. Owl doesn't want this because she is scared that the team will not accept her. All talks about how she is a stubborn person, and doesn't change her mind when it comes to something that is right, even though she is the only one in support. She is used to shutting people up if they are not in alliance. But then she met Rose, who used violence to change the way she sees things. Even when Owl tries to fight back, she ends up losing every time. However, she kept fighting back because she didn't want Rose to get one over her. She is amazed because Rose is the first and only person who would continue to stand by her and even challenge her. Other people get fed up and just leave after a while. She mentions the fact that Rose may be annoying, but she is the only one who understands them very well in the unit. This is the reason Owl wants Rose to continue being their commander. Upon hearing this, Rose stands up and knocks All in the head again. All cannot complain because she already knows the kind of person her boss is. Rose scolds All for thinking she will be so dumb to pick someone who is not worthy of succeeding her. Rose lets All know that she didn't pick her at random. She took her time and made the choice with confidence. All is surprised to hear this and wonders what Rose sees in her. Rose then starts to list the qualities that made her choose All as the deputy commander. Rose likes the fact that All never gives up on something when her mind is made up. Rose wants this kind of mentality because it will be a stable foundation for those around her to stand on. As long as All keeps going forward, those around her will follow suit. This comes as a surprise to All, who starts to wonder why her people will follow her. She leaves a wide grin while waiting for Rose to tell her the reason for this. Rose then tells her that things change constantly, and she needs to accept that. She is their current leader, but she will not be their leader one day, and Owl needs to be able to accept that fact. After hearing all of this, Owl realizes what Rose has been saying, and she concurs with everything Rose has said. Once this is settled, Rose stands up to go to sleep while Owl takes up the next watch. Rose knows that the rest of the squad is not asleep, and she lets them know that she is aware of this. All is shocked to find out that the guys have been listening to their conversations. The guys then assure All that they have her back always. They might not act like they do, but they are ready to follow whatever she says because they trust and like her. The next day, the squad finds claw marks on some trees. They recognize these claw marks as ones from a glow wolf. There are also footprints and red liquid on the ground. This proves to them that demons are really hunting the monsters, but they wonder what the demons want by hunting down monsters in human territory. Some believe that they are doing this for fun, but All knows that there are some other reasons behind it. Just then, they hear a roaring sound in the distance, and the squad moves toward the direction of the noise. They stay behind some bushes and spot some demons taking down monsters and stacking them in a carriage. The demons have someone of authority with them, who apparently is their leader. The leader is able to catch the human scent, and he lets it known that he is onto them. Rose realizes that there is no need to hide again, and she reveals herself. The rest of the squad follows suit once she does this. She steps out from the bush, but tells All and the rest to stay put put first. Rose asks the leader why they are hunting down monsters, and he replies that there is a reason behind this, but he is not open to disclose. Rose then asks what the guy wants to do because they can still avoid conflict at the stage they are in. The demon leader is confident in himself and his men, prompting him to tell Rose that he cannot let her go because she has spotted them already. He plans to terminate Rose and her squad. Upon hearing this, All steps out to support her boss. Rose then tells her to be in charge of the team because she will not be able to give them instructions while she is battling it out with the demon guy. The demon leader and Rose charge toward each other, and the demon leader activates a wind magic which he shoots at Rose. Surprisingly, Rose is faster than the attack, and she reaches the guy before he even knows what is happening. He manages to push back from getting hit, and he is about to mention how impressed he is that a human can be strong when Rose comes at him with another attack. Rose hits him and sends him crashing into the forest behind them. Rose wants to go after the guy, and she leaves her unit to deal with the rest of the demons. She runs after the guy, and when she realizes that the guy is about to run away, she picks up roots a tree and throws it in his front to block his path. She reinforces this by throwing more trees at him. She grabs one of the trees and uses this to pin him down. The demon guy breaks free from this and comes at Rose with a powerful wind attack, which he expects to be enough to stop Rose, but she breaks free from the spiraling attack thanks to her healing abilities. The guy then realizes that Rose is a healer, and her immense physical strength makes her an effective melee fighter. The guy decides to get serious, but to do that, he introduces himself first. His name is Nero Argents, and he also asks for his opponent's name, to which Rose obliges and answers. A red portal opens in the ground, and Nero's staff emerges from there. He threatens to terminate Rose, but Rose assures the guy that she will beat him to a pulp before he ever gets the chance to terminate her. Having said this, the two charges toward each other with all ferocity. The battle between the two groups continues. Rose's unit is ready to show the demons that they are not easy to beat. Rose notices that Nero's demon sword is cursed, which is the reason she cannot let the ugly possessed sword touch or cut her. She dodges the guy's attack and launches a counterattack that sends the guy to the floor. Rose taunts the demon by telling him to stand up because she is pretty sure that he still has the strength to fight. Nero admits that Rose and her unit are quite skilled. However, he is not ready to be defeated because they are working towards the emergence of the demon lord. With this, Nero emits a powerful control spell from his body. This is to show Rose that he and his squad are ready to become sacrificial sheep if it takes their lord to be reborn. Rose's unit notices something strange about the demons. The demons start acting as if their lives mean nothing, and Rose suspects that Nero has done something to the squad. She goes after the guy, aiming to end him before anything he does becomes fruitful. One of the demons holding on to Naruka plunges her head to death while also dying with her. Nero has basically conditioned his squad to die alongside the humans if that is what it takes. This effect continues, and Rose starts to lose her unit one by one. Rose loses her temperament, and she dashes toward Nero like a rabid dog. This only gives Nero the absolute chance to calculate her movements, and he delivers a cut to her right eyes. Rose tries healing the wound, but she can't because the sword is cursed. Even with half of her vision, Rose still remains standing, trying to take down Nero with whatever it is that she has left. Nero is about to finish the job when All jumps in between the attack and gets deeply cut instead of Rose. Rose falls to the ground, realizing that she has lost her entire unit. This is a unit that has always believed in her. Nero considers this the right time to talk shit about Rose and her unit, but this only makes the lady mad. Rose holds on to the guy's sword like it is nothing. She delivers a punch to his tummy to get him on his knees. She is intent on teaching him a big lesson. She punches Nero repeatedly, and even when Nero tries fighting back, he couldn't. Rose is in termination mode, and Nero has no chance against the lady. She throws him around like he is a piece of useless tissue. She throws him to a tree and impales him with his own sword. She is starting to slow down, but she wants to finish the job. She is getting closer to Nero when a young Amila emerges from the woods. She aims to save Nero, leaving Rose shocked that there is someone who is still willing to save Nero even though he is a pain in the Amila pulls out the sword, and plot armor covers the girl as Rose watches her drag away the guy, who is freaking responsible for the annihilation of her squad. Once the two are gone, Rose falls to her knees, but she hears Ol's groans, and she crawls over to where the girl is. She tries healing her, but the cut is too deep, and in addition to that, she was cut with the cursed sword. Before giving up the ghost, All tells Rose to remain the commander that they know her as. All dies, and Rose gives off a loud and painful scream as she looks around to see the bodies of her comrades. Upon getting back to the castle, Rose gives the king her report, and after she is done, she tells the king to remove her as the commander of the battalion. As if this is not enough already, she wants the king to remove her knighthood because she no longer considers herself a knight. While walking through the street, Rose runs into a man and a woman. They are Josh's parents, and they thank the lady for allowing Josh to serve in her unit. They know the impact she had on Josh because he was an annoying and freaking delinquent before she joined Rose's squad. They are not blaming her for Josh's death, but for the opportunity she gave to their son. 1 month later, Siglas comes to check on Rose because she has not left her base since the incident. Siglas is there to encourage and get her out of her gloomy state. He notices that her right eye is already healing, which means the curse was temporary. He wonders why Rose has not healed her eye since the curse has been lifted. After Siglas's departure, Rose claims she is leaving the injured eye the way it is so that it can remind her of what happened to her unit. This might be the reason, and she might also like the idea of wearing an eye patch. Who knows? Rose then finally comes to the conclusion that she is not going to waste the second chance that Owl gave her. Rose sits in her living room, thinking about her life, when the images of her dead unit appear to her. Owl and the others make fun of her for being down and tell her to cheer up. She is known as the joyful one, and they don't want that to change. They tell her to move forward because things don't stay the same, and she needs to accept this new reality. She remembers what Owl told her about remaining herself, and coupled with the beautiful memories she shared with the team, Rose is finally able to hold herself together. This was when she made the decision to create a unit that would be saving lives in preparation for the battles to come. In addition to this, she needs someone who is like her. Now in the present day, she tells Ken that she is happy to have found him. Ken wants to smile about this, but Rose hits him in the tummy because she just hates seeing the guy laugh or smile. Rose tells Ken that she is counting on him to be there with her on the battlefield because she is pretty sure he is not going to die. Ken grins because of the compliment, but as usual, Rose hits him hard. The poor have suffered a lot at the hands of this cruel beach. Meanwhile, the demons have finally finished the bridge they are constructing, and the knight in armor cannot wait to get into battle against the humans. The next morning, Ken leaves the tent early to look at the surroundings, and also reminds himself of why he has to fight a bunch of freaking and annoying cunts, while also trying his best to save the pretty dumb soldiers. He is in the middle of this when Suzune shows up out of nowhere. It is as if the perv has been waiting for her favorite toy to show up. Suzune starts telling Ken about the qualities that come with her shining armor. Ken is really not interested in this boring talk, but Suzune is pretty stubborn. She is getting closer to the guy when Ken starts praying that Kazuki will appear to save him. His prayers are answered, and Kazuki appears to take Suzune away, because Siglas is already asking after them. Moments later, Siglas mobilized the army, and he told everyone their duties. Suzune and Kazuki will lead the vanguard, and their aim is to open up the enemy's formation. In addition to this, they are free to push to the enemy's rear in an attempt to take the commander's head. Kazuki notices that Suzune is disturbed, and he tries to calm the lady. Not long after, the enemy forces appear right in front of them. The mages, including the heroes, launch a long-range attack at the enemies, but they are shocked to find out that the enemies they attacked are nothing but an illusion. It turns out that the real enemies are coming toward the southwest, and they have closed down already. The battle has begun already, and Rose tells Tong, Alec, Mill, Gomel, and Gerd to head into the battlefield to retrieve wounded soldiers for healing. Orga and Ururu will be in the tent attending to the wounded, while Aruku is in charge of protecting them. Rose and Ken are to enter the battlefield when things have started getting serious. Not long after this, the wounded started coming in. Ken's hand starts to shake like a chicken when he is about to heal one of the soldiers because he is just seeing what war looks like, and not the freaking video games he was playing back in his world. The wounded soldier talks about the giant snake that is attacking them on the battlefield. Ken wonders if this snake is related to the one he defeated in the woods. However, he takes his mind off this and heals the wounded soldier. On the battlefield, the knight in dark armor is suddenly stabbed from behind by a human soldier, but the knight doesn't look concerned. Without lifting a finger, the soldier gets injured, and he falls to the ground. The knight is about to end the soldier, but one of the healers gets there just in time to rescue the soldiers. The knight is impressed, and in fact, he wants more of this from the humans, because he is dying of boredom already. He sees lightning in the distance, and he takes it as a sign of premium action that he would like to join. As the battle proceeds, Rose decides that it is time for her and Ken to head out. She asks Ken if he is ready, and he says yes. Before leaving, Aruku assures Rose that he is going to make sure he protects the healers. With this, the two head into the battlefield. Ken gets the memory of the bad vision he had, and this forces him to stop. When Rose asks him what the problem is, he simply says nothing. Rose knows that the guy is not ready to kill, but to save people. She then gives him a last piece of advice before they finally head out separately. Ken sees a human soldier, who is about to lose his life to a demon, but Ken slides in right in time to save the weak fool. He saves a bunch of soldiers and tells them to retreat to the camp if they are not able to continue with the fight. Elsewhere, Suzune is putting up her best, but it seems she is feeling the pressure from the battle. Kazuki seems to notice this, but she quickly puts on a smiling face to deceive the guy that she is perfectly okay. Things are about to get even more interesting with the arrival of the knight in dark armor. A bunch of foolish dimwits, who are human soldiers, charge toward the knight and push their weapons into the knight, but there is no resistance from the knight. They soon find out why he is not moving when they start wriggling in pain. Without much thought, Suzune seems to have figured out the knight's magic power. Kazuki hits the knight in the shoulder with a long-range strike. However, the strike comes back to Kazuki, which finally confirms that the knight is using a magic called Reflect. This is a magic that allows all the damage done to the armor reflected back upon whoever inflicted it. The knight is impressed that Suzune figured out his skill, commending her for being the first person to have easily figured it out. Ken is carrying out his duties when he starts feeling a stubborn migraine that refuses to leave. He tries to heal himself, but this is not working. He starts wondering if something bad has happened to Suzune and Kazuki. He is in so much pain, leaving him vulnerable to a demon soldier, but one of the human soldiers he saved moments ago is there to rescue his open. He then asks the soldier where the heroes are. The soldier lets him know that they are fighting in the center of the battlefield. Continuing with the battle against the knight, Suzune realizes that they are at a great disadvantage against the knight because they can't attack. However, Suzune has a plan against the knight. She tells Kazuki about it, and together they charge toward the knight. Suzune blocks the knight's vision with a perfect dust cloud. Once this is achieved, they attack the knight in dark armor together. However, the two soon come to the realization that it is nothing but dog shit when the attack comes back to hit them. Just then, Suzune notices that there is damage on the knight's back that has not been reflected. Another idea immediately comes to her mind, and she tells Kazuki that they should launch another attack. This time, Suzune activates her super speed and runs around the knight while Kazuki blocks the enemy's vision with a ball of light. Before the knight knows what is happening, Suzune has pushed her sword into his throat from behind. Suzune believes that the knight cannot reflect attacks that they do not see coming. In addition to this, she has taken away the enemy's ability to say the word reflect. She then urges Kazuki to attack since they have a chance at that now. However, they learn the hard way that the knight was just toying with them. The knight reflects Suzune's attack, causing the wound to open up on her neck. Kazuki also gets impaled by the knight while jumping towards the knight. The knight makes fun of them, telling Suzune that they intentionally left the wound on their back without reflecting it to mislead them. In addition to this, he doesn't need his voice to reflect an attack. All he needs is the will and thought to do so, and it is considered done. The knight proudly boasts that there is nothing or no one in this world who can stop them. Kazuki is already lying down half dead on the floor, while Suzune is gradually joining him. Ken is on his way to them, but there is the possibility that it is going to be too late before he gets to where his friends are. As Suzune and Kazuki slowly lose their life force, Suzune remembers the first day she approached Ken in school. She considers herself lucky to have met Ken that very day. She was happy to have been summoned to this world, and also the fact that Ken, who is supposed to be the useless fellow among them, is the one who knows what he is supposed to do. The human soldiers are thrown into total disdain as they see the heroes lying there on the verge of death. The demons are celebrating because the Black Knight seems to be unstoppable. The Black Knight then raises their sword to finish what they started. However, Ken is rushing toward them with blinding speed. With the affirmation that his friends are not going to die, he delivers a devastating blow to the knight's body, and this sends them flying while groaning in pain. Ken is happy to have gotten to his friends before they died. He starts healing them immediately, but the knight has to stand back up. A piece of the armor on their face comes off to show that the knight is a woman. The knight admits that the attack hurt, and because of this, she is going to hurt Ken so badly. Ken has no time to fight the black cunt, and he carries his friends with the aim of running away. The demons try to stop him, but the human soldiers are there to cover his exit. Suzune has opened her eyes, and she thanked Ken for saving them. The Black Knight continues chasing Ken and even throws her sword at some point. This almost hits the trio, but Ken manages to evade the attack. Ken comes to a stop, and Suzune lets him know that they have not been able to deal damage to the Black Knight. The Knight catches up to them with the promise of hurting Ken, just like he hurt her. Ken has no plan of fighting the Knight, but she is starting to get on his nerves. He decides to engage in a battle with the Knight while Suzune watches over Kazuki. As he charges toward the Knight, he realizes that the Knight's armor can also morph, which makes the armor even more deadly. The Knight tries to hit Ken with her attacks, but they have no effect on him, leaving the Black Knight in total surprise. Ken notices that the Knight is not expecting what he is bringing to the table, and he increases the intensity of his punches. The Knight gets frustrated, telling Ken to die, but Ken reminds the proud Beach that people do not just die because she said so. Kazuki finally regains consciousness, and Suzune tells him that Ken was the one who healed them. In fact, he is currently battling it out with the scary Black Knight. All of the Knight's reflection attacks are not working on Ken because he is constantly in a healing state. Suzune wonders if the Knight's weakness can possibly be healing magic. They come to the realization that Ken is not injuring the Knight with his attacks, but he is making each attack really painful for her. Suzune cannot but admit the fact that this is the fucking wrong way to use healing magic. The Black Knight becomes mad that Ken has been toying with her, and she activates everything that she has in her. Her aura becomes more terrifying, and her sword becomes even bigger than before. This is supposed to scare Ken, but bro doesn't even care about all the intimidation show that the Knight is putting on. He doesn't care what kind of magic the Knight possesses because all he knows is that he needs to end everything. Ken and the Knight charge toward each other and they come in contact, leaving a big wave in their wake. Ken holds out to his limit and he overcomes the Knight with his healing magic. He breaks through the Knight's sword, allowing him to deliver a finishing blow that goes right through the Knight. This can be seen in the distance and Rose looks impressed by what she is looking at. Once everything clears out, the Dark Knight has lost her armor, leaving her completely vulnerable. The Knight turns out to be a female demon with white hair, and she has been completely knocked out by Ken's attack. Ken calls his finishing punch the ultimate healing punch. Once the demons realize that their best fighter has been defeated and captured, they start running back into their holes like rats. Suzune thanks Ken for saving them because they surely would have died if not for his intervention. Suzune asks him what type of attack that he used, and he explains to her that Rose taught him at the last minute. This was the piece of advice she gave him before they separated. All Ken has to do is imbue his fist with healing magic, so he is healing his enemy while also causing them serious pain. This won't kill the enemy, but will surely knock them out. Suzune and Ken are enjoying their success when the soldiers show up to tell them that the snake is still wreaking havoc. The heroes plan to finish this, and Ken wants to join them, but Rose shows up to stop him. Ken almost shits his pants with the arrival of his master. He even starts to apologize that he has taken care of everything before his master showed up. Rose then tells Ken that they need to head back to camp and he should leave the heroes to take care of the snake. Ken tells his friends that they better come back alive, and Suzune assures him that they are not going to waste the lives he gave them. In the demons' camp, Amila and the others have learned that the Black Knight has been captured, leaving them in total panic mode. Amila gets scared even more when she hears that there is another person who is agile just like Rose. She immediately realizes that the battle is a lost cause, because they have not even gone against Siglis, and they are already losing so badly. She tells Hiralik to call the snake back because it is time to retreat. Hiralik is about to do this when he realizes that the snake has been ambushed by the heroes. Working together, Suzune and Kazuki take down the belly-crawling beast. Now in the infirmary, Rose tells Ken that the enemy is retreating and he wants to know if they are going to give a chase, but she says no. She is trying to avoid further casualties because the demons are bound to attack again in the near future. Just then, Rose starts to compliment the guy, letting him know that the battle probably would have been lost if he hadn't saved the heroes. Hearing the praise come his way, tears roll down Ken's eyes because he finally realizes that his hard work was not in vain. Rose pats him on the head, and Ken thanks the lady for teaching him the right way to save people. Rose smiles as she proudly looks at Ken. Ken feels dizzy and passes out, but Rose catches him, realizing that the guy is out of mana and stamina already. She is glad that he is able to hold out for this long, and Rose cannot be prouder of his student. After the battle, Ken is summoned to the castle where he is rewarded by the king for his brave efforts to win them the battle. Ken has never been in front of this much people. This makes him nervous, but a smack from his master returns him to his senses. He sits down to tell his ugly pet Blurrin the story of how everything went. He is in the middle of this when Gomel shows up to tell him that his presence is needed in the castle again. While walking to the street, Ken is treated like a celebrity by the people, making things pretty awkward for him. Getting to the castle, Aruku thanks him for his efforts in the war. He gets to the throne room, and the king tells him that they need his help concerning the Black Knight who he captured. She has been cooperating during interrogations, which shows that she is not loyal to the demon realm. However, they want to know certain things about the demon army, which she is not saying yet. She has insisted that seeing Ken will be the only thing to make her cooperate. Ken agrees to this, and while heading to the basement, he is escorted by Suzune, who claims she is there to protect Ken. Ken needs to remind her that the Black Knight literally whooped in battle. The Black Knight uses dark magic, but Ken's healing magic negates her powers. Ken then remembers that he dealt so much damage to the Knight's body, and she should have received medical treatments. Ken rushes over to the cell to check in the Black Knight, who is now covered in her armor. Ken asks her if she is fine, but she answers that she is used to pain. Nonetheless, Ken knows she must be dying inside, and he tells Siglis to let him in. Siglis allows, and Ken starts healing the lady. He does this till he gets to her face, soothing the lady's face, and forcing her to totally remove her armor. Tears run down her eyes, as she tells Ken that she has never felt this way before. Later on, Ken realizes that he is about to go through another session of hell when his master tells him that he needs to train and learn how to dodge blows. He is used to receiving hits and healing himself, but his master wants him to evade blows instead of allowing them to land. Rose gets ready to punch the guy, but he starts running backwards. She even tells the guy that she is going to start light, but Ken wonders what sort of monster gets joy in hitting her subordinates. The training begins, and Rose manages to land a punch on the guy, totally knocking him out. Ken wakes up to the same treatment all over again. This continues for 3 days, making his life a living hell. Ken decides to visit the Black Knight in her cell since he is on a free day. He gists the Black Knight about everything that happened, making the Black Knight wonder why he is doing this. She realizes that she is getting vulnerable around the guy, and she asks him to leave. As he is about to leave the castle, he runs into Kazuki, who is training in front of Celia. He cannot believe that this is what training looks like because his master has almost ended his life, claiming that she is training him. Kazuki notices the presence of the guy, and he puts his training to a halt so that they can talk. Celia tells Ken that the king now trusts Ken more than before. He knows that the battle would have been lost if not for his brave intervention. Ken wants to act modest, telling the princess that he didn't do anything, but Kazuki cuts in. He is about to mention the fact that he almost died when he remembers that he is beside Celia, forcing him to quickly shut his mouth. However, Celia already gets the wind of this, and after Ken leaves, Kazuki finds himself in a pot of hot interrogation. Ken, on the other hand, wonders what will happen to the Black Knight now. She has given up all the info that they want from her, and there is the possibility that she might be executed. The Black Knight is in her cell when Rose shows up, leaving her utterly surprised. Rose tells the lady that she is there to give her 2 options, and the Black Knight is already peeing her pants. She knows Rose is far stronger than Ken, which makes her a very scary threat. Rose tells her that she has the option to rot in jail or to join her so she can turn her into an upright demon. Not that she has a choice, because Rose has already made up her mind. Rose puts a magic tool around the Knight's neck to restrict her dark magic and prevent her from putting on her armor. The Knight starts wondering what Rose wants with her, but she is about to find out only if she is patient. Ken and Blurrin are having a jog when he suddenly gets sidekicked by his menacing master. She reminds him that he is supposed to be taking the time off, and Ken wonders if this is enough reason for her to kick him. Beach, just admit you are a monster and you like kicking and punching. Ken is shocked to see the Knight with Rose. Rose informs Ken that she has plans to reform the lady and make her an errand runner for the rescue team. Rose is having fun already because this is going to be her first time training a demon. When the Knight wakes up, Ken offers his condolences because he knows the Knight is totally done for. Later that night, Rose informs Ken that the king plans on sending him and the heroes to other nations to deliver missives. Ken wonders why he has been chosen alongside the heroes, and Rose lets him know that the king now trusts him that he is going to get the job done. Rose tells him to get himself ready before he is called upon. Ken decides to buy a book in town, and the bookseller apologizes to him for the way they acted after the battle. They were just excited and impressed about how good the guy was. Unfortunately for Ken, he runs into the perv, Suzune, yet again. He is trying to navigate through this problem when he sees the Fox Girl, who shows him the vision of Suzune and Kazuki dying on the battlefield. He rushes over to where the girl is, and to his surprise, the girl tells him that it is time that he repays her because she needs Ken to save her mother. The Fox Girl tells Ken that he is the only one she counts on, and she introduces herself as a Mako. She then demands for a conversation in private. Meanwhile, the Dark Knight is having a hard time coping with the harsh training set upon them by Rose. She sees the entire rescue unit as inhumans, because there is no way in hell someone is not dying from this type of rigorous training. She decides to lay on the floor because she is tired, but a kick from Rose gives her the adrenaline she wants, and she immediately resumes her training. Since Rose and the others are out training, Ken and Suzune decide to talk to Amako in the dormitory. Ken thanks her for saving his friends by showing him the vision. Amako then explains to the guy that she has been looking for a healer, and this is the reason she left the faraway Beastkin territory, because only humans have healers. They ask her why she didn't ask Orga or Ururu for help, because they surely would have helped her. She replies that the two cannot fight, and she needs someone who can. They ask her why she didn't ask Rose, and she replies that she already saw Rose refusing her request in a vision. When she saw Ken, she realized that this was the person who was going to help her. Ken thinks about it and agrees to help. Since he is going to be traveling to deliver missives, he might as well make a pit stop at the Beastkin territory. However, Ken needs to consult Rose about this. Ken finds Rose and tells her about this. Rose is surprised to find out that there is an Oracle of Time in their lands. She says this might cause a war between them and the Beastkins. However, Rose believes that Ken will be able to go to the Beastkin territory because of the journey he is about to embark on. Ken returns to the room, but Amako already knows the outcome of his meeting with Rose. She thanks Ken before leaving for the day. That night, the Dark Knight finds it hard to eat because of the stressful and life-ending training that she has undergone. However, Ken tells her to eat because she hasn't seen anything yet. She is just at the gate of hell, and she hasn't entered the fire yet. Her training continues like this, and on the 10th day, she seems to be getting better. She is passing by the forest when she hears a scream coming from the woods. She decides to pause her training and check this out. It turns out that Rose and Ken are having their occasional dodge the punch training. With the type of hits that have landed on Ken, the Dark Knight believes that he should be dead already. As this continues, Ken manages to dodge one of Rose's punches, and this excites him, but another punch knocks him to the tree. However, he doesn't care about this because a win is a win. He has finally been able to dodge one of Rose's punches after days. The Dark Knight assumes that Ken is no longer human because he should be dead. Rose then tells the Dark Knight to continue her training under Ken. Ken and the Knight sit down to talk, and Ken tells the Knight that his master is a freaking monster. All the Knight can say in return is that Ken is becoming one himself. Ken then decides to finally ask the Knight for her name. She replies that her name is Felm. Just after he learns of her name, Ken runs away with Blurrin, leaving Felm heartbroken. She expects him to have a long talk with her, but he just zooms off with his pet. She chases after him, trying to keep, but this only ends with her passing out. While having dinner, the rescue team believes the guy has done something fishy to the girl, but he tells them that he is innocent of whatever dumb thing that they are thinking about. Ken talks trash about Rose, which almost cost him his head. Later that night, Felm overhears Ken and Rose talking about his journey to deliver missives. The next morning, Felm packs her bags and leaves the dormitory. On the other hand, Ken and Amako head to the throne room where the king thanks Amako for her help. The king tells Ken that Welsi will tell him the rest of the info that he needs to know. He will be visiting the City of Magic, Lukvist, the Nation of Prayer, Samariarl, the Nation of Water, Mia Lark, And finally, he is going to stop at the Beastkin territory. Kazuki and Suzune will accompany him to Lookvist, but they are going to part ways from there. Ken will be left with his attending knights, but having too many knights will make the other nations suspicious. He is going to take 2 knights with him, and he is free to choose whoever he wants. Once he is given this option, he chooses Aruku as one of the knights to follow him. This is a big honor for Aruku, and he accepts the task. For the second knight that will be following him, Ken chooses his pet, Blurrin. Meanwhile, Rose has caught up to Felm. She knows that she heard her talking to Ken about the missives. She believes that the girl will take the chance to inform the demons, but she is not doing that. It turns out that she is hiding in the woods so that she can join Ken on his journey. Apparently, the lady is worried about Ken, but Rose assures her that Ken is like her, which means he is not going to get hurt easily. Rose now has another plan in store for Felm, but first they need to go to the dormitory. That evening, Felm and Ken get to talk, and this is basically their farewell to each other. Felm tries to hide the fact that actually cares about Ken. Rose then gives Ken the most violent advice ever. She tells him to beat up whoever claims other magic is better than healing magic. Toes knows that the journey he is embarking on is going to change him in one way or the other, and this is the she is wishing him luck. She tells the boy that she expects great things from him, basically turning him into freaking Spider-Man. Ken admires the lady so much, and he is glad that she is his master. The next day, the heroes and Ken set off on their journey. Rose has also taken Felm to where she will now be receiving her training. She is in hell at last. Thank you for watching the video to the end, and don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for content like this. Don't hesitate to leave in the comment section what anime you want us to recap for your entertainment. Cheers people, and have a good one.